Welcome to another chat series where we talk about personal branding and how personal branding can impact yourself. And I'm on a mission, or I rather I wouldn't call it as a mission. Rather, I would love people to understand what personal branding is about. Particularly, I would like to share the transformation that I went through in the past couple of years to make it accessible to you. I mean, personal branding, it sounds scary, but it's not such a scary thing. It's actually fun, and the value that you get out of it is immense. So I'd like to share what's happening around that. And in today's chat, we have Kaif Ahsan with us. So he will give us a perspective of why personal branding is important for students, and this is applicable to everyone as well. So people usually think that, hey, this is not applicable for me, I'll probably do it when I'm experienced enough, or sometime down your career. But no, probably the best time to start personal branding was yesterday. So, and the next best time is today. So you have to get into it. Let's get into the conversation with Kaif. Welcome, Kaif. Thanks for being a part of this.
Hi, Vinesh. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here today. I want to begin the talk especially by saying, everyone, thank you for joining us. And secondly, hope you guys are well. These are difficult times, weirder than usual. And I do believe that all of you have been safe and all right. And you guys have been hanging in there. So that's the important thing.
Yeah.
Just hang in there. Things will pass.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I mean, we are in crazy times. People call this a new normal. I don't know. People say that things will pass and we'll go back to normal, but it won't be a normal. It will be a new normal. You know,
Yeah.
I can't even think about getting into public transport now. I'm sure a lot of people will be paranoid right now. But you can probably introduce yourself, Kaif. I mean, people are maybe some people are wondering, you know, why I invited you to this session. So what's exciting about you, and why would I invite you for a personal branding talk?
Yep. So I myself am currently working as a student partner with Microsoft, where I am designing a boot camp for over 2,000 students all over Australia, as well as training them. On top of that, my passion is computers, and I work also as a software engineer for Melbourne Space Program, where I am part of the Mars rover team. Me and my team are designing a Mars rover, which would be launched quite a bit down the track.
Sounds very exciting.
Yeah, thanks for that. And at the same time, I am a student of the University of Melbourne doing my bachelor's on computer and software systems.
Brilliant. Sounds very interesting. Just an FYI, we have a lot of viewers on LinkedIn and YouTube and Facebook as well. This is going live on all three platforms. Mm-hmm. Please engage us. Make us feel that someone is watching us. Otherwise, we'll just go through a random conversation as if no one is watching. So please ask questions, say hi, say hello. If you want to talk, if you want to ask any question or talk anything with us, please put it in the comments. I'm monitoring all three platforms, so it would be great if you can ask questions, and we'll pick up the questions in between and answer all your questions. So yeah, so what you're doing sounds amazing, Kaif. So but where
I just want to extend on that as well. That I know there can be a few students here in the call, and if you guys are interested in, I know you guys have internships or grad roles in mind, and if you have any question related to that and how personal branding comes into play, I will cover it. But if you guys have any specific questions, feel free to ask.
Brilliant, thanks. So now you gave an introduction about the awesome work that I do. It looks very interesting for me. But here our conversation is personal branding. So let us bring back to that. What is personal branding for you? I mean, what I see is personal branding has a different perspective for everyone. What is it for you? What does it mean for you, Kaif?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And honestly, that's a question I had to ponder about a lot. for me, what I believe personal branding is for me is first of all an opportunity creator. So personal branding doesn't necessarily have to be your social media or your personal image. I don't think it that way. I view personal branding as sort of like a way of express myself, and throughout that expression often comes with a lot of opportunity, because once you put yourself out there, that's when people notice you. They see your journey, they see your mission, and that's where those different opportunities come to you. So firstly that, and next, I see personal branding as another way of self-reflection. At least that was for me, because when I wasn't necessarily consciously doing personal branding, but I was deciding, okay, what would I would want to be known for in the community? What would I want to leave in my mark in? And I always felt that being a community person, getting more community involvement is something that attracted me. So I wanted to be that person who's very active in the community, who's an evangelist, who speaks in a lot of events, does a lot for the community, hosting workshops, doing boot camps, etc. So I needed to look into myself, that what I wanted to do, as well as how I'm gonna do it. So what skills do I have? What value I can provide? And that, I believe, to some level helped me a lot come up and overcome my imposter syndrome, as especially if you guys are in tech. A lot of you might often feel daunted with other people, by other people who are really good at their craft. And it's a very common phenomenon in tech, that even though you know a lot of stuff, you might feel that you don't belong into the industry, you don't know enough. And that that feeling, I think, can be tackled through knowing what value you can provide. You always don't need to be the best coder in the room. You just need to know that, hey, I bring in these values into the room. These are the skills I bring into, and once you know those skills, you your self confidence will start to build up on top of that. You would know what areas you can, when it comes up, you can contribute to, and that inherently builds up your self confidence, and as well as gives you motivation to be better at that. So personal branding again was a self reflections session for me, where I essentially overcame, or to some degree overcame, my imposter syndrome.
Brilliant. That's a very nice way to put it, and you already explained what personal branding is in depth. We actually had have a question from Kiran on LinkedIn. His question is, what do you mean by personal branding, and how do we do it with LinkedIn? So I think you kind of answered half of it. We'll touch the other half of
Yeah,
it later.
yeah.
So LinkedIn, social media, just like we were talking before, it's just a tool for for branding yourself or marketing yourself. So we'll get into that topic later. But a few things that you touched in your answer, Kaif, you repeatedly mentioned realizing your values, understanding what it is that you want to do. That's very important. But these can be really hard words for someone. I mean, I remember if someone said if someone asked me a couple of years back, what are your values? I like, what values? I don't know, you know. So how did you get by that mindset? As in, how did you realize that you have values, and how did you find your values? Just I know it might be a very complicated answer, but just to give
Yeah, yeah,
a taste of what it
yeah.
is.
Yeah, 100%. The first thing I would like to say, that this is by no means a definitive journey, and you realizing your values or what you are passionate about can have so many different routes, and this is the route which I took, and everyone will have an individual, independent journey, and that's what's so special about it as well. So um, even though it's independent, I can certainly mention some factors which did play a part into me determining what I like, or what are my values at, or in which areas I would like to add those values. So the first thing, I know this might seem a bit cheesy, but find out what you're passionate about. Again, it's very hard to quantify or know what you're passionate about. I've had a lot of friends who still can't determine what exactly they want to pursue a career in, what exactly um, they are quote unquote passionate about. So that again, for you have to try different stuff out. For me, when I was younger, I wanted to be a cricketer. That's what I was. I wanted to be. I used to play cricket a lot, and then I got so one day I was doing a maths through this website called Khan Academy because my maths teacher, all respect to him, wasn't the easiest guy to communicate with, so I didn't know what he was going on about in class. So I used to teach myself math
Yeah.
through online websites. So I came across this concept of programming, and I was like, "Hey, what's that?" Um, so I watched a few videos on it. I have started to get a liking for it, and it was just a rabbit hole. That's a story for another day. Uh, we'll strictly focus
Yeah.
on personal branding here,
Yeah.
but just going back to the values. So I realized what values I can provide is through um, realizing what are the things I like. So this obviously needed a lot of different experiment. If you guys if you guys go into my LinkedIn, then you'll see that I was fortunate enough to have a lot of prior internships or prior roles and each of those roles are very different. And that's not something uh, I'll say 100% incidental. That was somewhat deliberate because I wanted to explore. I wanted to look out in different areas, see if I like to work there. And again, the way I think I can provide value to something is when I'm working and I don't feel that this is being a very big burden to me. That's an initial indicator to me that hey, this is might be something I I can enjoy or I enjoy and can be my passion. And from there on, I try to build on value on that. So I'll give an example. So I got a role in uni for my university club as an education officer, where I had to teach other people cybersecurity, and that basically came because I wanted to get involved more into the uni club, be that community person. Not necessarily I was super passionate or a genius in cybersecurity. I just that was just one of the many options came across my path, and as students. We often don't get a lot of opportunities because at least for me I didn't actively look when I started my university, so it came across my path. I decided to show up into the events. A couple of events in, I saw a job notice, I applied for the role, I got the role. And that was my first, I would say, rigorous or professional public speaking. So once I did a few, I realized that even though I didn't have a knack for it, I thoroughly enjoyed. I got a big rush after I had delivered a talk successfully, and from that point on, I knew that hey, if I maybe this might work out for my benefit. That since I'm enjoying this, I might try to be more involved in the community by giving out more talks, hosting more workshops, and have that evangelist role. So, and that sort of started becoming ingrained into my brand. It's not something I super subconsciously created. It's something I created after a lot of testing and sort of tinkering. And I think it was just yesterday what day was it? Yeah, it was just yesterday. I delivered a boot camp for Microsoft where there was, I think, close to 200 people. And by that time, I remember that my first public speaking, I was very, very nervous. But yesterday's one, I was calm. I was comparatively cool. And yeah, so over the time, you know that these are the areas you can provide value in. And again, going back to my original story, so if you start enjoying it, if you start liking it, and if you feel that this is something you're passionate about, down the track you can convert into convert into something which provides you that personal brand. I know I'm providing a lot of stuff out
No,
there, and
that was on point. I mean, I particularly like the way you said, getting that rush. That's what it is
mm,
all about. Enjoying that whatever you're doing. And the problem with I'd say particularly with international students or even migrants. I mean, I'm
mhm,
from India. The culture that I come
mhm,
from, we don't have many options, or we don't look out for many options.
mhm,
Just like the movie Three Idiots, most of us have seen.
mm,
When you're born, you're decided either you're an engineer or you're a doctor. That's it, and
mm,
and everything is written. You're probably an engineer for life or a doctor for life, and our mindset gets stuck in that. Say if I had not moved in Australia, this is my story. I would have been a software engineer for life. I would have not thought about anything else. But somewhere down the line, after moving to Australia and in the process of helping people, I kind of got the I don't know how to put it. I mean, I got the kick of helping people and bringing a smile in people, and now I'm kind of addicted to that, and that was a very different thing for me as well, because I've been a software engineer for all my time. I'm not a good
mhm.
social person. I'm a socially awkward person, and then suddenly finding joy in talking to people made absolutely no sense in me. So that's what realizing what you are can actually do to you, and that's it can be really
100%.
transforming. We have a couple
Yeah.
of questions on YouTube and LinkedIn, so kind of related. So I thought I'll club this. On
Yeah.
LinkedIn, we have a question from Deepesh. He is asking, how do you think temporary residents rejected time and again in their job hunt can brand themselves to stand out in the crowd? That's one. And on YouTube, Kasturi is asking, "Hi Kaif, how did personal branding help you in getting an internship?" So I think these both are related.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on
100%.
this?
Yep. I'll answer the first one first, and as temporary visa holders, and I myself am again an international student, and it can be difficult to see that a lot of opportunities are by default restricted to us. And secondly, when you apply, even though you have high hopes, there might be some visa related issue or similar issue which not gets you the job. And that is very frustrating, and that is something I can 100% relate to. Um, again, what you can do in this case is your personal building a personal brand shouldn't be focused targeted to getting that role. It should be surrounding it. So I would suggest figure out what your niche is. So what areas are you interested again, and it can be areas related to the role you're trying to get. For example, let's say software engineer, and go to meetups. Again, you guys are already listening to this. That sort of I can assume that you guys are already in meetup. So in the meetup, again, I will say something again very generic. Talk to other people, go and introduce themselves, but don't have that me-centric me-centric approach that hey, can you provide me value? Instead, think how you can provide them the value. So that's something I used to actively think. And so what I used to do is I used to go to these meetups, and I was part of my university club. So another thing I would mention very soon is association with other different brands, which can give you initial platform. So I used to go in these meetups, talk to everyone in general, which is normal. But I would often target the speakers particularly. So I would if I enjoyed that particular speaker's talk, I would say that hey, I'm part of my university's information security club. I really enjoyed your talk. Would you be ever keen to come and give a talk at the University of Melbourne? And this is one of the areas where you are providing them some value. And now, once they see that you are actually trying to provide them value or being that person who lends a helping hand, they'll be more open to talk to you. You have a more genuine connection and more genuine conversation with them. And now you might ask that it's too late for me. I'm not part of any university clubs, or even if you're in a university, you might say that I'm only a member of that club. How can I do this? That's completely fine. I would often go to machine learning meetups or general, let's say, software engineering meetups, which had nothing to do with cybersecurity. I would do something like I would say to that person, hey, there's this club in University of Melbourne. I'm associated with it, even though I'm just a member. And I would say that would you like to sometime come and give a talk to us? Talk with us. And when they hear the names of giving a talk, since already they are giving us talk at that particular meetup, they're extrovert person, right? They like giving those talks. So I would say in most cases will agree. Then once you have that person, you can go back to that club. And the clubs always want guest speakers, even though you're not associated with the club. You can just go to the club that hey, I know this person from, let's say in my case, who's from Microsoft, and he's very good in IoT or very good in machine learning, and would you want him to come and give a talk to your with your club? I can arrange this. So you're being that mediator, that middle person who's providing other people value. And that's how you create your personal brand, that you're the one who's providing other people values. So that was one practical thing I used to do, and I still do it in whichever meetup I go. If I like someone's talk, I just go and ask them if they want to give us a talk with my clubs. And now I wouldn't say I'm famous, but I'm familiar with a lot of executives with a lot of different clubs in Melbourne University as well as other universities all over Australia. And I would say a lot of the opportunities I've got with Microsoft. I've got an internship coming with Atlassian. My current role at Melbourne Space, I discovered them because I went to these meetups and had those connections with other people. I looked at their LinkedIn. I found something which I liked, especially students. You'll find that a lot of the times the Microsoft role I'm doing, I found it in one of my friends' LinkedIn. I saw it. I was like, hey, that sounds like a very cool role. I reached out to her, said, can you please tell me a bit more about the role? And since she knew that I'm the kind of person who's being active in the community, she actively reached out and helped me more with the role. And that's one way to build your brand, even though you're a student or you're getting a lot of let's say rejections from jobs.
Brilliant, brilliant way to put it. And last week we actually had a conversation with Maria where she explained how networking is key to personal branding. Networking has I don't know, n number of advantages. It's not only a branding tool; it also clarifies what you want. I mean, the more you talk, the more you understand. It's just like you said, it's about trying out things and learning new things. You don't have to be focused in one kind of meetup, just one kind of meetup. Go to different meetups, figure out what is it that you like, talk to different people, and the kind of knowledge and the power that gives you, it's immense, and that'll kind of boost your brand, and people will know. And just like just as an example of power of networking, I mean, this is not a huge thing that I do. It's just another meetup but I was recommended, you were recommended to me by Lavi, and it's just because you and me knows Lavi that we are doing this together today, right? Otherwise this wouldn't happen. So that's what
I knew her from a meetup, so
yeah
that's 100%
yeah, absolutely. So she I think she has a lot of connections, and she's introducing me to a lot of people now because I started doing this, and I'm trying to figure out, and your name came up, and we did it. So that's what networking can do. Now, you kind of touched our topic on how people can approach the speakers and help them and stuff like that. So, a question for you: how would you? This is by Vashishta on LinkedIn. How would you suggest an introvert to open up for personal branding?
Again, this is a bit hard for me to answer because I wouldn't identify myself as an introvert. I was always the person who would speak up first. Who, when I go into a meetup, I'm the kind of person when I see have an eye contact with someone, I'll go and talk with them that hi, how your day was and
Yep.
how's it going. And for introverts, I do realize that just doing this same act requires much more energy because they are inherently trying to open themselves up.
Yep.
One possible suggestion I would probably can give, and what I've noticed is um, two things: is going into specialized meetups where you have prior interest, so you know that so you guys already have a common topic to discuss about. So in my cases, I'll give a concrete example. I'm very passionate about cybersecurity. I don't do a degree about it, but in my free time, that's what pretty much I spend in. And so I go to cybersecurity meetups, and um, when I see someone, I don't have to worry too much about what I'm going to ask. And I can just go and hit a conversation. And to get the conversation up and going, to keep it going, I know that since he or she has come into a cybersecurity meetup, she would be interested in common security topics, the what's happening in the landscape. He or she might have seen the common podcast. I can get my conversations going. And another tip I would give in this case is have a few pre-built questions. So these are questions I always go back to when I go into networking. So the reason it's often hard for introverts to speak up because it's one thing to first of all they have to overcome the challenge of speaking up speaking up and going to and talk to that person, and the second thing is getting that conversation going. So there's a few tips I would like to give on this. The first one is have a few predefined questions like why have you attended this meetup, or why have you attended this workshop? How's your work going? Where do you work, etc. Which is something I can always fall back to. And once they have introduced me to get the conversation going, or if it stops any place, I have a few other sort of general template questions. One of them is, so are you doing anything interesting at work recently? So that often gets them going. And again, the key is listen to them. Don't. I've noticed it within myself that there was a time when someone says something to me, I'll just think in my mind what I'm gonna reply instead of actually listening to that person. And if you haven't been listening to that person, getting that conversation going or for a prolonged time can be a very challenging task. It's going to be very energy consuming because you're just in your head deciding what you're going to say, and you're missing out a lot of different very important cues. So when the person talks, you'll see that when he or she talks about certain topics, their lights will light up, pun intended.
Yep.
Their eyes will light up. They'll be more interested and more engaged into talking. They'll speak more rather than being cold and distant. So those are the topics you wanna be getting that conversation going in, because those are the things they are interested in talking about. And if you can identify that as then you've got a huge edge or a huge bonus. So I would say to quickly summarize what I've said about physical meetups is have a few pre-built questions, and secondly, listen closely to others. Try to guess which topics they would be more interested in talking, and just go towards that because that sort of reduces the burden on top of you to keep the conversation going for a long time. And another thing I love to do when I'm talking to someone is sort of repeat the last two or three things they have said to me. So if Vinesh, you says something like, if you're talking about personal branding, and if you say a sentence, I'll just say a couple of different things, just repeat you back from the sentence. That also makes that other person feel that they're being heard, and they keep on that motion of conversation going.
Yeah,
So
brilliant points, Kaif. Man, I don't think you started right when you said you are not an expert on this, because you shared a lot of points on this, and what you said is absolutely valid. Being prepared can give you a edge. I mean, don't think most people are awkward when it goes to meetup. You think that you are the worst, but you go for a meetup, you'll see at least 10 people sitting in corners, sitting
Yeah, they
alone,
feel
right?
awkward as well.
Right. So everyone feels awkward. So
Yeah.
the best, some things that I see people doing is they club with a buddy. For example, if you
Mm.
like going to meetups, be friends with Kaif. He'll tag you along, or he'll take you along to all the meetups, and he'll force you to network. So stuff like that can also work out. And I relate
Yeah,
to
I agree with that.
yeah, I relate to how hard it can be, because again, I'm high on I have high introvert qualities. When I was job hunting, I've shared this story a lot of times. During my 8 months of job search, I never went out for a coffee catch up. I never went to a meetup. I didn't even know a platform called Meetup exists, right? And I
Yeah.
never, I didn't want to do that. Even today, when I go to a meetup that is not of my niche, just like you said, which I'm not sure of what it is about, I tend to sit in a corner and play with my phone. I mean, that's where I'm
Mm.
comfortable. But if it's my
Nice.
meetup,
Yeah.
no one can stop me talking. I'll
Yeah.
talk for hours and hours and hours. So it's important that you know where you're going to. You're prepared about what
Yes.
sort of audience will be there, who are the speakers. Do some research on the speakers so that you
Yes.
can
100%.
have a chat to them on. I mean, and social media is open the Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or whatever it is. You'll
Yeah.
find where they've been in the last 1 month, and you can actually strike a don't be creepy, but you can still strike a conversation on that. So
Yes.
uh,
I
uh,
agree with you, Vinay.
yeah, very well said, Kaif. Thanks for sharing that. Now, let's come back to a student perspective of how things work, and not just a student, for someone who's just starting, or someone who doesn't even know they need personal branding, right? We do stuff when we actually have a target, as in, okay, this is what I'm trying to achieve. But in case of personal branding or personal development, we don't even actually know what it is that we are going for. So it can really be a
Mm-hmm.
hard journey, and it's like going to the gym. You never know when to stop. I mean, there's no stopping. You realize late that there is no stopping. So what is your or what push would you give for someone who's just watching this episode and thinking, both of us are talking crap? What would your few words be to them?
Yep. So again, I don't want to come off as arrogant or anything here, but the way I like to think is there are some people out there who think that that I'll just follow my university degree or follow my current path I'm taking, and after graduation, this is again I'm speaking from a student's mindset, that I'll get a job, something will come across my way, and I'll just do that. Well, I do have a sort of an alarm for you that jobs don't fall on your lap. Not 100% they don't. You would need to be competing with a lot of people, and you need to have that edge to stand out from the crowd. And that's not going to happen if you just stick to your current track as you are, and just do the generic things which you are being told to do. Because when you think about personal branding, when you think about being proactive, no one is telling you these things. These are the things you yourself take actions for, and that's what something gave me a lot of motivation. That um, am I gonna be that person who's gonna be told what to do their entire life? Like do our job, or do some sort of profession where I'll be the one who's gonna be guided, or who's gonna be sort of told what to do the entire time. And that was a big no-no to me. That I'm kind of the person who's very self-independent. I make my own plans. I do. Yes, there are certain times I reach out for help to other people. That's something which is very crucial. So sometimes I don't have the expertise or the knowledge. That's where I need my seniors to tell what to do. But it's I'm talking about the overall general direction of your life. Do you want to be just be pushed around by um, by others, as well as um, just I'd say don't just leave it to luck. Obviously, there's a factor of luck to it, but you need that. For me, I sort of thought that am I going to be the person who takes control of it or tries to take control of it and makes the most out of your life, because you're getting only one shot at this. And to be honest, if you just wait until you finish your uni, or sort of you hope that I'll get a very fantastic new ideas for startup and I'll just be proactive, then it doesn't work like that. You have to be proactive yourself, right? Like Vinesh said, like probably the best time was yesterday, but um, the correct time to start is now.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's the motivation for me.
And the key thing is, it's all this is about you. No one else can figure this out. I mean,
Exactly.
say for example, you when you need help, you ask, I mean, for example, or when you need to apply for a job, you ask someone, hey, can you check my resume? But
Mhm.
that's all that they can do for you. In the
Mhm.
end, that what the content of the resume is what you say, right? So it's all
Mhm.
about you. It's about what you want to be. It's about where you want to go. We are not adding anything to it. Personal branding is not something that makes you a person like a superstar out there, like some Steve Jobs or of that. Like it's not about your intention to be someone else. No, you're not becoming
Yeah.
someone else. You're being the best version of yourself. and
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
if you try to imitate what Kaif is doing, and you try to do what he's doing, you might get successful, but you'll never be happy with that. You might earn a lot of money, for example, but you'll never be happy with that. Every person has something different that makes them happy. The values that Kaif mentioned earlier, everyone has something that defines them, and it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
So you can't copy that. People can help you find that what is it. The more you talk, but the more you talk to people, you'll understand, hey, I really like this. I mean, I didn't know I would like this, but I like this. And then
Yeah.
you keep digging, and this can change too. This year, for example, Kaif is saying you would like to work for Microsoft and Atlassian. Next year, you'd probably say, no, I want to work for my own company. I'm establishing my own company. And that's
Yeah.
fine too.
100%.
But there will be some values that stick to you throughout your life. And that's what drives all these decisions. And it can change. That's fine. So, yeah, that's where it comes from. By the way, I see that our audience is very silent. Our viewers is very silent. Either they're bored, or they're cut off from what we are
Oh
doing
no.
here. Yeah. So if you're still out there, please type something on the comments, so that we are energized to do more of this and have this conversation again. The perspectives that you gave are very impulsive, Kaif, and especially not just as students, even me. I mean, I always look back at what I was 2 years back, and I had no direction. I used to do my work as a routine. I go morning, I come back evening, and it was just a job, right? But it doesn't have to be. There are a lot of things that you can do that actually fires you up, and you really like. For example, this is something that I'm doing outside work, and I absolutely do it. I don't even get tired of doing this, right? Because
Yeah.
I just
You
love doing
enjoy it.
this. Yeah. But we don't tend to think like that. And when we think about, hey, I need to do something new, we do a lot of mistakes, and we probably go to the wrong direction and say, this is not for me. So have you, for example, let's start with your journey. Did you do any mistakes when you started this journey? I mean, I understand that you started this personal branding journey way earlier, as in you had a vision since probably for ages. Not everyone has that. If some people say, I want to do this now, and they get lost. So what do you think are the common mistakes that people do with this?
Um, I think I'm sort of in a position and age where, um, again, I can't speak for a lot of person, but I can definitely come from a student's perspective.
Mhm.
Especially in terms of figuring out your career, because I've seen a lot of my friends who um, start, let's say, a degree or a program, and after a while they think that, hey, I don't enjoy it that much. So what should I do? Um, that's why I would say that don't let that degree or like something of a commitment you made hold you back, or ground you, and think that you have no other options. You have way more options than often you think that you actually have. It's a lot about putting yourself out there and just taking the most out of those options. For I would actually like to mention something in which I think if I did more in first year, or in my first year of degree, it would have been up. I would have been up in a better position, um, um, or I would say opportunities I missed.
Yep.
So some of them are is I would say brand association. You might seem that you often just personal branding you by yourself, it's a very difficult thing to do. So if you can early on associate yourself with a known figure, with a known brand, it's much easier for you to strike a conversation. And for me now, it's much, I'd say, much more convenient, because when someone asks me, hey, what do you do? I can say like I work for Microsoft, and they'll be like, oh, cool. Well, what do you do there? And a conversation starts to flow. And it wasn't always that, and it took me a while to get into that position. And but it doesn't necessarily needs to be. There are so many different opportunities out there for students, especially from way early on. They can definitely take advantage of, and these are students of all I'd say levels, as well as gender, age, whatever you say. So again, associate yourself with bigger brands. I would say for students, there are a lot of different programs out there. If I'm just my background is tech, so I'll share some tech resources. Um, Google has their student program. Microsoft has their student program. All the big four accounting firms, consulting firms like Accenture have their student program, and I'm not talking about their internship program. I'm talking about their, for example, Microsoft has student partner program. Google has developer student club leader. I know EY have their Compass program. A few of the big four accounting firms are not open to everyone, especially international students. So just a disclaimer, but the Microsoft and Google ones are open to everyone, and they are a platform. Once you become a student partner or something like that in your first year, you can achieve a lot. I became student partner towards the end of my first year. So I knew I got to know about way late. So if you're a student, no matter what level you are, Google it, like Google student programs, Google conference scholarships, Google Google summer programs, free summer programs, non-paid summer programs, which you can do as a first year, because those are more catered towards first year or second year. Each level have their programs. Take advantage of those programs, and a lot of those programs, since they don't have a lot of, I'd say, in first year, people often just chill and take uni slowly. Um, so they definitely miss out a lot, and that's something I did. I know Google has their also step program. Microsoft has their forgot, it's Microsoft, I think Garage something.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook has Facebook University. Oracle has Oracle University. These are programs targeted to first year students and beginner level students, or students who have made a career switch. So even if you were in, let's say, in engineering or something, and you just got into coding or that technical background, these are some programs which you can speak in. A lot of these meetups have beginner tracks. For example, I know a lot of cybersecurity meetups, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same for almost every field. They have some dedicated time for students and beginner entry level people to speak up. So take advantage of those. Take advantage of conferences. All the conferences have scholarships for minority groups, scholarships for students, and you all are eligible for these scholarships. You don't have to be an international student or something like that for a lot of these scholarships. For example, the PyCon scholarship. That's PyConference is a very big conference for a programming language called Python, and I'm just elaborating it for the non-technical viewers we have. They provide scholarship which lets you visit that conference and attend all the trainings. Um, what else? Google also provides a few of this kind of scholarships. Google's Women Tech Makers is a big scholarship like that. So these are different opportunities. Just and you might ask, how do I know this, or how can you know this? You have the internet at your disposal at and even if you just search that first year uni programs for to do for students, or student ambassador programs in Australia, something like that, a lot of results will come in. For some cases, depending on how you probably do your search, you might not get a lot of results initially, but keep on digging and go use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is really beneficial. Like if you want to, um, I would say what I personally do is I know the role in the future I want to work in, so I look up people who are I look up that role and look up people who are in that role, and then I sort of see what stuff they have done, not in the role but before the role. So what stuff they were doing, what were the activities, and a lot of the times you will figure out a pattern, or you will notice a pattern that these are the things you need to be doing. And so yeah, I would say I didn't. My regret is I didn't start this early enough, especially in first year, where there's a lot of different opportunities open. So that's something I would certainly say to people, that there's a lot of different opportunities out there. You just have to take the time, take half an hour out of day, take an hour out of week to sit down and search for this. So
That's
I had, for example, a list of internships, list of scholarships, list of things. I would just often like Google, trying to find add into that list.
that's so many resources that you already shared out there, and this is one thing that usually hear from international students as well. They say, the university doesn't give much support, even if it's with job or anything of that sort. But some people tell me, all resources are out there, even if it's a university, or just like you said, the internet is your friend. There are tons of things, tons of programs, scholarships, internships, conferences happening out there. But the main difference, I'd say, especially for international students, is, for example, if you're from India, everything comes to you. I mean, people force you
Yeah.
to do it.
Mm,
Your professor will come and say, "Hey, you have to attend this tomorrow." Here, no one
mm,
will tell that to you.
mm.
You do whatever you want, and you have to figure out what you have to do.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
the amount of resources are immense, and just like Kaif explained right now, I mean, he himself explained like 4 or 5 programs by the top industries, and I'm sure there are many more. But
Mhm.
unless you go looking for it, and
Yeah.
networking can be a brilliant tool as well. You talk to people.
Exactly.
For
Yeah.
example, you talk to people like Kaif. He will give you a list of what you have to do, right? So, but the difficult part is finding Kaif. How would you find Kaif if, for example, you did not come for this meetup, or and if you are not in the friend circle of Kaif, right? So that's what you have to do, and that's what networking can bring, and that's
Exactly.
immense power. So that was very useful information that you have shared right now. We have a question from Monish on YouTube. He is asking, I know this is a bit off topic, but curious to ask how to manage time doing so many things. How does your daily schedule go? That's a very interesting one.
Yeah. That's something I do struggle with, and I think this was just a few days ago. I reached out to my mentor at Melbourne Space Program on how do I schedule all these times, because I would say uh, I was struggling to sort of manage all these, because I had a couple of part-time roles and as well as full-time uni. So it was full on, and I was at that point sort of stressing a lot. So I was like, hey, can you help me out here? What would be your suggestion? So um, this was a combination of tools as well as methods. So I'll cover the methods first. So um, again, there's a lot of resources out there in the internet. I do recommend doing some research. Um, but how it worked for me is I would try to determine which time. of the day I'm being most productive at, and what time I get most of my stuff done. So I realized that the pattern in my day that I started up in the days very productive, and then towards the noon, my productivity would just fall a lot. I would like after 1 or 2 p.m. until let's say 5 or 6, I wouldn't feel like doing anything. But that's like a huge chunk of time, and a lot of the time, in a lot of the cases, if you're a student, that's a lot of free time as well. And there's a big temptation just to um, just end up playing just video games or just
Mm.
watching TV shows. Not that they're wrong. You have to unwind sometimes, but not majority of the time. So you need to figure out why you're hitting that slack. So I was discussing with my mentor, and turns out it was my diet because I'm from the subcontinent as well. I'm from Bangladesh, and we have rice as our diet. And I used to have that a good chunk of rice in lunch. My stomach would get full, and I wouldn't be able to reach up that or hit back that productivity level.
Story of
So
my
he was
life.
yeah. So he suggests that cut back that carbohydrate. So I did that. And I started feeling more proactive in that time. So one method is analyzes your day 100%, like what times you're most productive, trying to put more creative tasks when I have to write something or write a like create a video or create some educational content. I do it in the morning, whereas night I do more sort of reading or watching videos, watching lectures, because I feel that that's more efficient for me. So find out your jam, find out what works best for you. That's 100% one method to do it. And next thing comes is the tools. So tools, the stress you get from procrastinating or time management is often caused by not organizing stuff. At least it was for my case, because I would make a visual mental plan of the week, of the day, and it would only be in my head. So it would be all floating around. So it was very hard to um, sort of track everything and do everything properly. So what I did is started having a list. So I personally use Trello boards. So I have
Yep.
two boards. One is for my weekly task. I sort of analyze my week and say these are the things I need to get done. I put them into I put them into like different days and or whatever, and then I have a daily Trello board. So I go back to my weekly board, look at my weekly tasks, what task I had planned for my day, and then just plan my day accordingly. And it does take 20 to 30 minutes to do this. I do this every Sunday, but it's 100% worth it. The next tip, which is a very good tip I got, and I was saving the best from the last, is tracking your time. So once you start tracking your time, you'd start seeing where your time is going and how much time you are spending behind that task. How do you do it? I use an app called Toggle. Uh, Not sure if you guys can see it, but I'll post
Yep.
how do I say it? Yeah, I'll post it somewhere. I'll
Yep.
post it to Vinesh, and
Yeah.
he can share it with you guys. But it's just Toggle, TOGGL. You can just otherwise search time tracking apps. So what I do is start tracking the task I am doing. For example, even now it's a track time. So I put my current time under self-development, because by talking and sharing with you guys, I'm doing some self-development. So I'm just tracking this time. If I'm doing, I track all my individual uni subjects as how much time I have spent after them. I just open up that timer, put play, and that also helps me focus, because before that I would get a notification. I would do that for 20 minutes, come back to the role, and it's very hard for your mind. Humans are not meant to multitask. If you go back and forth, you're not going to be your optimal level. So when I have the timer going, I realize I tend to pick up my phone less, because even if I picked up my phone, accidentally opened LinkedIn, opened Instagram, after a few minutes, it hits my back of my mind. Oh, I have a timer going on, or I have a stopwatch going on. I'm not meant to be doing this, doing that instead. So I put my phone instead, put back instead, and do the task I was doing. So yeah, managing and tracking my time certainly helped me um, realize how much I was actually being productive. There's a difference between how much you think you're being productive and you're actually are being productive. So track the difference, and trying to figure out where that time is going. So and have a probably target as well. For my example, I target to work and study, including 8 to 10 hours on average every day, and I make sure that if I lost some time in the morning, I'm putting that time back in the afternoon, in the evening, throughout the night, to gain that time back. So yeah, those are some my advices and insights and tips about time management.
Brilliant. I think you're a very well organized and you're kind of sorted out your life kind of person. So the
I'm just
apps that you
learning
mentioned
it.
are really good. It's one was Toggle and the other one was Trello. I've heard Trello a lot as well. And I mean, I'm not an organized person at all. I just do things by my whim. I mean, one problem that I saw is I was spending a lot of time on LinkedIn, and now I'm cutting down on that. Just like you mentioned, I'm tracking how much time I'm spending on it. And just as an example, I get a lot of messages every day. Now I kind of batch respond to it instead of responding
Mm,
every now and then. I kind of make it
exactly.
a
Yeah.
batch, and maybe once a week or once in 3 days I set this time and say, hey, let me respond to all messages now. So things like
Mm,
that.
yeah.
So
I do the
knowing,
same.
yeah, so knowing what is it that you're trying to achieve and having a plan is very important. And sometimes, when you love doing things, you just don't get tired, or you
Yeah.
just keep
Yeah.
doing it. That's me. I even though I spend a lot of time on, unless your partner says, hey, what's happening here, and come knocking your doors, you won't actually know what's happening. So that's one thing as well. So but well explained. And I especially like the writing down part, as in when things are just floating in your head, it's not real, and
Mm,
you kind of manipulate it every now and then, depending on how you feel. But when it's
yes.
there in a list, or when you've written it down, or when you've posted it on your wall, it becomes real, and you become accountable to that, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
important that you use, and with technology there are tons of tools, and you can use any sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And one thing to mention here is one challenge I had to overcome is I used to think that I have to write it down. It's going to take like 10 minutes, or it's going to take some time for me to
yeah,
actually do this. But if you invest 10 minutes there, you're going to be saving half an hour to 1 hour or even
absolutely,
more somewhere else. So that's the benefits, that's the trade-off you're getting.
absolutely.
And yeah, it helps with everything else as well.
And it brings a lot of certainty as well. You know what you have to do for the next week. You don't have to think, okay, I'm bored, I have tons of things to do, but I'm not feeling like doing anything. I mean, just look at the list, and you know what you have to do. Just pick
Yeah,
one and do it,
100%. Yeah, you have a
right? So
target, you have a
yeah,
goal to
yeah, so
motivate.
that's really good as well. So probably we'll wrap up soon. So in the meantime, any questions you'd like to ask to Kay for myself, please post it on any of the social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. We are live on all the media, all the social media. So if you have any questions, please post to us. Is there anything else you'd like to share? I mean, the questions that I wrote down is, I think we have covered most of it, and you've shared a lot of tips. Is there anything that I missed, or is there anything that you'd like to share, Kaif?
Um, Let me have a look at my notes
Yeah.
as well. Put everything in. I would say this is a question I sort of answered, but not directly. Like
Yep.
how having a personal brand helped me get an internship. That was
Yep.
the entire like
Right.
question. So both my Microsoft at my upcoming Atlassian one was directly, I would say, related to personal brand, and a lot of the times, one another way to quantify personal brand is your social media as well. So your LinkedIn, um, um, your GitHub, whatever you're using. So my suggestion would be put everything in one place where everyone can quickly see your profile and understand what you are about and what are your values, like what can you provide to them, because that's what everyone will think. Like if they look at you, the first thing they're thinking is what can this person provide value to me. If I mean, this is obviously not definitive, some people just want to help, but this is the case for most cases, for most people. And If you for my case, everything I have done is in LinkedIn. Before that, it was very segmented. I had my some stuff on LinkedIn, some stuff on GitHub, some stuff on my personal website. So I decided to got rid of that because it was a hassle maintaining all that. I got rid of my personal website. I still maintain my GitHub. That's very important. But I have my GitHub in my LinkedIn. And I have my resume in my LinkedIn. I have everything I do, the volunteering, a lot of the presentation there in my LinkedIn. So it's bundled into one nice place. So this is a tool side of things rather than the philosophy. So if you're pick a platform, ideally LinkedIn, or if you're a developer, then GitHub or whatever suits you. Have everything there. Don't decentralize it. Have everything in one platform so people can come and have a quick look and understand what you're about. And yeah.
Yep. So you didn't get to the point on how it resulted in your internship.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Indirectly. So in both cases, they had a look at my LinkedIn. They were saying that they asked me a lot of questions, which were directly put in my LinkedIn, and I used LinkedIn as that central hub where which I would sort of advertise everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked me a lot of questions during, especially in the behavioral part, which were directly from my previous roles, roles which I did not specify in my resume, or things like volunteering or some of the certifications. They were like, "Oh, what was this about? Did you enjoy this?" or something like that. And yeah, from that point on, I could just take the conversation forward. So 100%. That's
so people do stalk you before interviewing you. That's the lesson over here.
Definitely. Yeah.
So whatever you put on social media, whatever social media it is, be responsible for that. I've heard people, they even stalk your Facebook profiles, and if they don't see something right, that's a red flag. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, some they do look up. I mean, nowadays it's a bit more privacy protected. I don't know about you guys, but my Facebook is just my friends. But stuff like my LinkedIn, which are open to others, if it's public, be mindful of it, because I've got more than one evidence that the role I applied for went through my social media, because that's something everyone does very commonly these days. Because they care about not only the technology, but you as a person as well.
Yeah. So we have a question from Andrew. Kaif, what do you think about blogging?
I think it's a fantastic thing to do, and you guys have heard the 1% rule of internet. I'm not sure if you have, but I'm just going to explain. It's the rule that the things in internet, only 1% of the people are actually creating the content, and other 99% are consuming it or just interacting with it. They're not creating that content. So if you are one of that 1% who is actually creating that content, putting stuff out there, then sooner or later you will get some attention. You will get that exposure you deserve. And this is something, especially in technical fields, we encourage a lot. For example, I'm in charge of running the Student Accelerator program for Microsoft all over here in Australia. The technical side of things, sorry, not the entire thing. And one thing we do is encourage students to write blogs about the stuff they have learned, because it's not only making you not only condensing the stuff you have learned, but as well afterwards you can share it with other people, that hey, these are the stuff I have learned, I have done in the past. So if I go through your blogs and I see that you have written blogs about these different things, I'll instantly know that this guy is knowledgeable on these topics. So that definitely puts a great impression on others.
Absolutely. So I think with the social media boom, blogging it's just not about writing articles. There are so many platforms. Writing a post is also kind of blogging, and it's a simpler way to do it. You don't have to write paragraphs and paragraphs. It's short. If you're into Twitter, just 140 characters, that's all you need, and you can still share your story. So I think content generation It's a big thing right now, and just like you said, only probably 1% of the people are actually generating content. And if you consistently do it, eventually people will take notice, provided that it is quality content. It's not
It
spam.
is quality content.
It's not spam.
Yeah.
But that's it. So I think we had a wonderful session. I'm not seeing any more questions from any of the social media, but we had some quite a good response from all our viewers across social media. So it was definitely fun. Thanks for sharing all those insights, especially as a student, the different platforms and the massive opportunities that are out there that you're not seeing. And like I said, the best time to utilize it was yesterday, but the next best time is today or right now. And you have to be, you don't just sit in your, I wouldn't call it a rabbit hole, but don't just sit in your comfort zone and think that things will happen. If you're a student after 2 years, after when you graduate, you'll panic saying, hey, I want to get things done now. Things don't work like that. Personal branding is a lifelong journey, I could say. But the earlier you start, the quicker you get there and the quicker you grow. So it's very important that you start immediately. And Kaif is a brilliant example of where it takes to you. I mean, the way he talks, it's on another level. He has figured out what is that he want and how he can get there, how he can improve, whether it's time management, whether it's the skills that you are looking for. He knows what it is about, and he has a clear picture of what is required. And that is in the end what personal branding is, getting a clear picture of what you are. It's not a marketing thing. It's not about how many followers you have on LinkedIn. It's not about how many likes you get on your posts. It's not about that. It's about what are you about? Are you the best version of yourself? So thank you so much for having this conversation with me, Kaif.
It was so wonderful. Much for having me, Vinesh. And one last parting comment I would like to say to our viewers here. If you guys are on LinkedIn or on Twitter, I'll prefer LinkedIn. Feel free to reach out. I'm big on mentoring as well as having conversation with other people. If you have any questions or if you want any kind of help, feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to do it.
Brilliant. Thanks for that wonderful gesture, Kev. So I think that's that for today. Next week, we'll have another person to explain what personal branding is. My idea is to bring a different personality every week, and that way we'll get a different perspective of what personal branding is all about. But until next time, have a good weekend. It's cold in Melbourne. I hope it gets a bit warmer and a bit cozier, but enjoy your weekend. Thank you.